Let's talk about one of the most powerful APIs, and that's the fine-tuning API. So this allows you to adapt an existing large language model to your specific use case and train it with your own data. Maybe even lots of it, as long as you're willing to pay for it. They do charge you by the token that you train it with. But the advantage of this is that it eliminates the need to build up this big conversation in a chat to get the results you want. So instead of relying on prompt engineering or prompt design to try to coerce ChatGPT into saying what you want to say, you can just train it up front with your own style, your own data, your own information, and then every subsequent query that you give to that fine-tuned model will do what you want out of the box. So in the long run, that can save on your token usage. But it also gives you some pretty exciting capabilities and possibilities of things to build on top of GPT. Once you've fine-tuned your model, you can use it just like any other model. You just pass it as a new model when you specify which model to use to the other APIs. And furthermore, you can fine-tune a fine-tuned model. So I could even take GPT or whatever model I'm training and fine-tune that with recent data from, say, customer service conversations that my company had. And then as I get newer information, I can continue to fine-tune that with more information as it comes in, basically making my fine-tuned model smarter and smarter over time. It gets to learn over time instead of being frozen in the past when the larger model was trained. There are some exciting applications of this sort of thing. We've talked about a few of these before, but one, you could have a chatbot that has a certain personality or a certain style or a certain objective. Like maybe its goal is to write ads, so you just feed it a lot of examples of good ad copy that converted well, right? And train it on that. Or you might want to just train it with data that's more recent than what it was originally trained with. So maybe you have access to data that's more current that you wanted to know about. Maybe you have proprietary data, like your own past emails or messages or customer support transcripts that you want to train the system with to make it sound like yourself or make it sound like a customer support agent or whatever else you can dream up. Maybe like a movie character or a TV character. We're going to do that in a minute. You can also use it for specific applications, like fine-tuning the model to do classification better, or evaluating whether a statement made is true or not, right? Imagine that. Imagine you could do a fine-tuning where you tell it whether or not given statements are true. You could give ChatGPT a concept of truth for once. That'd be kind of nice. So there are two fine-tuning APIs available right now from OpenAI. One is the legacy version, which is called Fine-Tunes. And as of 2024, this is probably going to go away. It's already been officially deprecated, but this is the one that is a little bit more mature right now. There's a brand new one we're going to talk about in a minute, but this older one works with the completions API as opposed to the chat completions API. And data preparation for it is a little bit more involved than the current newer API as well. For the legacy Fine-Tunes API, you start by preparing your data set in what's called JSON-L format. And this is the same for the new version as well. Basically, every line of that is a prompt and an ideal completion for that prompt that we're going to fine-tune our model with. And that's the same with the new model as well. It's just the format is different. Now, what is specific to this older API is that you need to take care that your prompts are in a certain specific format. So for example, you need to make sure that every prompt in your training data set ends with some sort of unique separator. For example, new line, hash, 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 new line, something that isn't going to appear in the rest of your data that's coming in. Also, you need to take care that your completions begin with a white space character and end with a fixed stop sequence like hash, 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 or end, or whatever it might be. Again, you just have to make sure it's some token that doesn't appear in your completions. And you need to specify that when you're actually using this fine-tuned model and make sure you're telling it what that end token is so that it knows when to stop generating text. Otherwise, it will just ramble on forever. The primary interface for using the legacy Fine-Tunes API is the command line interface, and they provide you with some handy data preparation tools to validate your data and also import data from CSV, Excel, or JSON. A tool is in development for the newer API for this, but as of this recording, they haven't released that quite yet. So that is one thing that the older system has that's pretty cool. And for fine-tuning, you'll be charged by the token in the training data. The rates are surprisingly cheap though. So, for 100,000 tokens, it might just be, a few dollars to do that training. In the example we're about to do, it'll cost me about $30, but for what we're doing, that's not a bad deal. Once you've prepared your data set, you then create your fine-tuned model by giving it that data set. And again, there's a command line interface for doing that, where you just pass in your training data and the model that you're tuning, which might be DaVinci or Babbage, for example. And this can take hours. It can take a little while. So you're going to be in a queue with everybody else. You have to wait for your turn in line. And then once that fine tuning begins, that might also take about an hour or so. But when it's done, You'll have a new model you can play with, and you can either refer to that model through the API, through the command line interface, or by using the OpenAI playground as well. So let's go off and have some fun and actually use the legacy fine-tunes API to recreate the character data from Star Trek. And then we'll come back and do it the new way too.